Even one down the sideline, and he's got Cass over the top. Big down the sideline. Touchdown. His signature move and his signature performance. Allen, big ball one more time. 58 yards this time.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network.
What's up, Bruin Bible listeners? This is your host, Will Decker. Wanted to reach out and say thank you guys for all the listens, all the love. We see it on social media. We see it on YouTube. It has been sensational. And we want to encourage you guys, if you guys are enjoying the podcast and liking it, that you guys subscribe and like it, whether it's on YouTube on our UCLA LAFB channel or the Bruin Bible, to subscribe either through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you guys listen and react to it, because it's going to allow us to do much greater things in the future. We're creators. We want to be giving the best Bruins content to all of our UCLA listeners. The only way we can do that is if we have a fan base that is locked in and helping us out. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. If you guys have been liking it, please help us out with a like and subscribe. What is up, ESPN Radio 1090, the mightier Will Decker, your host, joined by the madman, Jamal, my co-host. We have a very special guest in the house today, Mr. Wayne Cook himself, former quarterback for the UCLA Bruins. We got a bowl game coming up this Saturday, LA Bowl, sponsored by Gronk. I'm going to be in attendance. I think all three of us are going to be in the house for that one, so very, very excited and thrilled. How we doing, Wayne, as we lead into the weekend with more UCLA football on the horizon?
I'm great, guys, and it is my pleasure as always to be on the show. I think it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, for UCLA these last month. But we have a game, okay, and it's against, as I keep telling people, I'm so glad that Boise State won, because I believe that UNLV, even though they've come a long way, they're not a brand in college football, and I think Boise State is. I think it was a no-win situation if we would have played UNLV. I think at least with Boise, this is a team that's done a lot. So I think it's a good matchup, two brand names, and I think it should be a good game.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you, kind of pick your mind about the matchup, pick your mind about everything that's been going on. But before we get into that, guys, we got to talk about our sponsor for today's podcast, Underdog Fantasy, guys. Make sure you use promo code UCLA LAFB. It's where you can get all your bets in, on different situations, different games, different ball games. They will match you from $5 to $500. So if you guys want to put in $500, you might as well have $1,000 in that bank account when you're betting. So make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code UCLA LAFB. I've been using it for NBA. I've got one going on tonight, actually. I'm taking Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, higher than 26.5 points plus rebounds is one of the prop bets you can get. And then I'm going on the lower for DeMar DeRozan, lower on the 34.5 points and rebounds and assists. So it's going to be a fun one. Make sure you check that out. UCLA LAFB on the promo for Underdog Fantasy. We are so grateful for them sponsoring us. Wayne, we'll lead it off with you, big guy. It's been a chaotic month. I think a lot of, people have been kind of airing out their grievances. I don't know if you've been on Twitter recently, but a lot of negativity out in the air for UCLA football. And, some of it's understandable. I think we all had very high hopes for this year, and, it didn't go as planned. D'Anton Lynn leaving for USC, that one stunk for a lot of UCLA, given how good he was. He inherited the 89th defense and turned into the 11th total defense in the country. Right. I think that's a proper starting point. Let's talk about D'Anton Lynn, because I thought he was so special this year and what he was able to do. And, him going to not just only leave in general, but to leave to USC, it hurts, man. I get it, but it hurts. What were your thoughts on the D'Anton Lynn experiment that turned into a grand success for UCLA?
Yeah. So it's a great starting point. So Coach Lynn did a great job. I really like him. Every time I talk to him, I liked him quite a bit. But we need to be honest here for a second. What player started on our defense that he recruited?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not one of them, right? Everybody came back. This team, we talked about it even before the season. I truly thought that before Coach McGovern got sick last year, I thought the defense was playing a lot better. And then the second half of the season, I thought they were kind of a little bit rudderless, like they kind of lost their way a little bit. And I think people forget, because that was a different scheme. But when you lose the mastermind of that scheme, no matter how good the assistants are, it's not their baby, right? It's not like when you're calling your own defense that you created. It's amazing how well you understand it. It's like your brainchild. Like, this is the way I want to run this defense. So that was a problem. Coming back this year, we got a lot to that. And I remember Coach Kelly talking about this, that was going to just get that much better. Like, we all saw the superstar he was going to be, but like, it was almost like last year he was just kind of getting rid of some of the rust. Yeah. And he turned into arguably, like, I think, you can put him right up there as the best player in the country on the defensive side of the ball. He was that good. You watch him play, it's just like mesmerizing. You're like, you forget about the other people because he's that good. So this is not a knock on the way Coach Lynn called plays, but we got the best Darius Muasau. We got the best Kane Medrano. And remember, Kid Norton's a heck of a coach. Those two guys were also, and think about all the players on this defense that are like upperclassmen. Think about all the players that have a ton of football experience, and you all know that matters. Like, when you're 22 years old, it's different than when you're 18 and 19. So many. I mean, really, the only player that was young that played, and it's a bummer that we don't have him anymore, is Kamari Ramsey, who had an amazing year. But it seemed like everybody else has been around the program for a long time. So I'm not going to act like this was all Coach Lynn, because I think there's a lot of other pieces involved. So I still think there's hope. So yeah, I'm bummed, but if you've been around this, all of us have been around this for a long time. It's hard to keep. Eric Bieniemy is going to move on after he coaches Maurice Jones-Drew and he goes for 1 million yards, and he's going to get other offers. That's kind of the world we live in. So other schools are dealing with this too. And for all that you mentioned, all the people on, I started catching myself because when I watch the I check Twitter way more than I should. But it's really the same 8 or 9 people that I'm seeing post most of the stuff. Correct?
Absolutely.
So it is what it is. And if it's going to be a grumpy group and that's going to represent our entire fan base, that makes me sad. Like, I did a podcast earlier today, and I was basically like, listen, people, like, we're playing in a bowl game that's closer than our home stadium. Stop acting like we don't matter. Fan bases matter when you're recruiting. People want to see people in the seats. Fan bases matter for next year's bowl game. People want to invite you to a good bowl game if they think your fans will travel. So don't act like you're not. You can be part of the solution, or you can be part of the problem. That's the way I look at it.
No, so well said, Wayne. And, kind of taking your macro perspective, and zooming out a bit, how do you see kind of the health of the program going into 2024 and beyond? There's obviously some factors at play, nil becoming a bigger kind of card to play with a lot of these programs. How do you see UCLA there? And just overall, now going into the Big Ten, how do you see this transition taking place? And what are your thoughts over the next kind of year, 2 years, 3 years about the program?
So the last 2 years, the way we've kind of fizzled at the end has been disheartening. This year, remember last year we talked about the Arizona game, like, oh my gosh, we just got that one, right? And then the way the bowl game ended, and it was just like there was just too many. The SC game ended the way it ended, so this year we get the SC game, but we lose to Arizona State, we lose to Cal. I'm going to keep reminding people of this. A lot of teams out there look way worse than when their backups are playing. I know the quarterback fiasco this year was a problem. I'm going to say this. I would have liked for it to have been Garbers from day one. That's just my opinion. Dante wasn't ready yet. It does not mean that Dante's not going to go on wherever he gets picked up. He's not going to go on to be a great quarterback. And there will be some of those same people that are negative about the program, 24/7, be going, see, well, it doesn't always work. It's not, 3 years from now, everybody's going to be a different player because they grow and they develop and all that stuff. But either way, I'm bummed at stuff like that, but we have won 8 games, 9 games, now 7 with a chance at 8. And I know it's not good enough. I do. But in every single one of those seasons, all of us out there can be thinking of there's at least 2 more wins in all those seasons. There's games that's like, man, I can't believe it. And to be honest with you, I even think the Arizona game is a game we could have had. I thought we rotated the quarterbacks too much in that game. I thought it was way too hard to get into a rhythm. And again, I've told you guys this a million times. I like Coach Kelly a lot. I do. I think he's a great guy. I think his players play for him. I think that I think sometimes we believe some of those people that talk a lot on social media. And let's be honest, there was a couple of reports that had come out from a certain group of people that were wrong. And I get to the point where, like, are you just making this stuff up, or do you actually, or whoever your source is not telling the truth? Because I remember when it was reported that there was something was going to happen. I was in the building that week. I was in the building talking about the future. I was in the building talking about NIL, which you just mentioned. And there's a plan. There's a plan. Like, they are flat out like, we're not good enough at this. And if the rules don't change, we need to be better at NIL. And I can promise you, as of right now, there's a group of people working at UCLA that are all NIL. That's what their job is. They're going to promote. They're going to do it the right way. They're going to do it the legal way, because that's what UCLA does. And I know that's what Chip Kelly wants. Players are still going to go to school. They're still going to graduate, but they're going to give them as many NIL opportunities as they can. And we talked about this off the air, Will. As bleak as it looks sometimes when you lose Carson Ryan, when you lose Jamal, I just said your name. When you lose, I'm
not going anywhere.
You better not
Wayne,
go
I'm
anywhere.
UCLA for life.
You better not enter the portal. When we lose Carson Ryan, when we lose Kamari Ramsey, when we lose players like Keegan Jones, it hurts. It stings because you like those players. But then you also go, oh, we got pretty good safety from San Diego State. Oh, wait a second, we're going to get another defensive back from Oregon. The way the portal works now, players know that even though someone's going somewhere else, that they're like, hey, wait a second, there's a starting spot where I could slide in and maybe be a starter day one at UCLA now. Maybe I can replace John Humphrey, who was a big loss also, and I can go in and do that. So I think there's a lot to be done. And to be honest with you, should we not give credit to what Chip Kelly has done in the transfer portal? He's kind of proven he's pretty good at it. Like, think about Latu, think about Garbers, think about the Murphys, think about all of these players, Darius Musa, these guys that are stars, Jay Tawia, stars. They were all acquired in the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, Chip has repeatedly, time and time again, proven he can get into the transfer portal. I think with all the murkiness, a lot of people were expecting a drop-off. But, hey, like, right before we were recording this podcast, we just got an Oregon safety that was very talented coming to UCLA next year. Wayne, I kind of want to do a two-part question here. We kind of touched on it a little bit. Talk to me, first and foremost, about how proud you are as somebody that's repped the quarterback position at UCLA in Ethan Garbers. I mean, this guy lost the job, comes back, gets injured against Arizona. It looks like he's done for the season, comes back, and, has his defining moment thus far at UCLA when he beats USC in the Coliseum, a game that was all heart. It just the post-game quotes from him where it's like, this is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
It shows that, with all these people transferring out, it was really impressive to me that Garbers didn't quit or give up and stayed the course. And it's looking like, fingers crossed going into next year, he might be the guy leading UCLA into the Big Ten as, the signal caller. And the second point I have with that is, where do you think it went wrong for Dante Moore? So, like, we look at the out-of-conference schedule. This guy was completing 62% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. And then, in conference, it just got very difficult. 50% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. Long questions, but talk about Garbers and then talk about Dante Moore and what they meant.
My favorite subject. You kidding me? So what's really fun is, I don't know if I have an eye for talent or not, but like I go all the way back to Patrick Cowan and watching him as a freshman and go, why is this guy not getting more opportunities? Like, and I just feel like I can see it. And I would go out to practice and I would watch Ethan Garbers play, and I'd be like I would hear everybody talk about who's better and who has more potential and who has more talent and all this stuff. And I'd be like, why are you guys like this? First of all, if you're only basing it on stars, like 4-star quarterbacks are that's a good ranking. And Ethan was that coming out of high school, and he had a great high school career. And then people would say, well, he's not as athletic. I'd say, well, he looks faster than Dante does to me. I think we've all learned that Dante is not a dual threat quarterback. He's a drop back quarterback. And Garbers can actually move and run. And he's better with his legs. Most of his games, he has positive rushing yards. Then you start talking about arm strength. And I heard about accuracy. And I'm like, well, Ethan throws it quicker. He gets it out faster. He's got a stronger arm, actually, which I want Ethan, and I know Ethan's probably listening to this podcast because he loves college football. And so I want Garbers to work on what, and then this is going to sound weird, but I want him to watch Quinn Ewers. And I want him to watch him in the playoff games because Quinn Ewers throws almost every throw with touch. It's kind of weird. If you really watch him throw, he hardly ever throws it hard. Everything is, and he's so much better. He was good last year, but if you watch his footwork, and he threw an out and up in their last game that he threw it before the guy came out of his break. And he threw it with such good touch. I was like, oh my God, that is like, that's next level. That's like pros don't do that. There's a lot of pro quarterbacks that don't know how to do that. They wait and then they try to show off their arm and throw it really hard. He just threw it up with touch, and it's such an easy catchable ball. I think Ethan sometimes throws everything like hard. And I think he can work on a little bit of touch. But other than that, I mean, not to get too far into the weeds on this, I think Garbers has it all. I think he's got good feet. He's got good size. He's got a quick release. He's got a strong arm. I mean, we saw what he did against USC. We saw all the passes that he completed to Logan Loya, like when they mattered, like when they really mattered. And people are like, yeah, but those are like 5-yard outs. I'm like, yeah, good. Guess what? We don't complete a lot of 5 yards outs. Those are perfect. I'll take those all day. I'll take hitches, 5-yard outs, screens. I mean, watch football right now. That's what people are doing. And the good quarterbacks throw it accurately and on time, and then let their athletes make plays. So he proved to me that he can be the guy. And it was funny when I was doing, my podcast, College Sports Now, when I do that, I was talking about the same thing. I said, I hope that he has an opportunity because, he ran out on senior night. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
But he can come back and play. So now that Dante has transferred, I hope that Ethan and I hope the coaching staff are like, listen, Ethan, you're going to have, because we don't know what's going to happen, right? The portals, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. They might decide they want to bring in someone else. But remember, with that comes learning Chip Kelly's system. Right now, you've got a guy that's got a ton of talent that has to learn how to not take the big hits. I know we always like to blame the linemen for quarterbacks getting hit, but there's a way. There's a way for quarterbacks to avoid those big hits. Like, you don't always have to step into and throw a ball when the guy's right in your face. I know we say that's courageous, but sometimes you just take the sack and stay on the field, right? You don't want to get hurt all the time. But I hope he has an opportunity to come back, because I think the way he knows Chip Kelly's system, I think that'd be huge for UCLA. As far as Dante Moore, he just wasn't ready. He really wasn't. I know that there's stuff out there about how they didn't call the right plays for him. I know people are trying to figure stuff out, but those are the same plays that Dorian Thompson-Robinson was completing 70% of his passes with. There was the same development that Dorian Thompson went from being a high school receiver to a draft pick who started a couple games in the NFL as a rookie. You can't tell me players aren't being developed. Ryan Gunderson did not get an offensive coordinator job at Oregon State because he can't coach. I watched his practices. He works on footwork constantly, all the things that I love. And these guys are always getting reps and having opportunities to get better. What happens, and I think this is the part that I don't know if everybody grasped, is it's a lot easier to look good in practice. And you get to show off like I'm really, because you're not getting hit. You don't have to throw uncomfortably. You get to kind of relax and spin the ball around. And he's got that talent. Where the gap is that he was really struggling with reading defenses. He wasn't throwing it to the right guy. He wasn't like he was doing the I'm kind of a cute high school quarterback sidearm stuff, and these big athletic players in the Pac-12 were knocking down his passes. We're getting in lanes. He wasn't seeing the linebackers. He was throwing it right to him sometimes. So all of that stuff comes with playing. And so you may think I'm ripping Dante right now because he left. I'm absolutely not. I will tell you that if you go back and study the history of UCLA football, freshman quarterbacks struggle. Almost all of them. Even the ones that have been first-round draft choices. Go back and look at how many interceptions they all threw as freshmen. The numbers are actually a lot higher than you would think.
No, it makes sense, Wayne. And, if you were football ruler for a day of UCLA football, well, you are. But, if you were in sort of in official capacity, Wayne, what are the three things that you think this program needs to do to get back to winning conference championships and being back to being kind of elite as we were in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah. So this is so funny because these topics are they're great questions. I just I saw something on social media where it was talking about the SEC and it was talking about how many of their teams have winning records since the college football playoff series started. And it was basically 5 of them have winning conference records. And in Texas A&M's like 42-39. So just barely. So really it's LSU, it's Georgia and Alabama, and I forget whoever, maybe Auburn. Okay. And so but the idea is every other team in that conference, they have 14 teams in that conference. Every other team has a losing conference record. And then I started going through all the conferences. And I'm like, man, we forget sometimes because we're so hyper-focused on the playoff teams that we forget that there's a lot of 7 to 9 win teams out there that are a couple of plays away from a couple more wins. And it's going to be difficult because I will tell you this. We talk about like college football was different in the 80s and 90s. UCLA in 2 decades made it to had 5 conference championships. I bet you if you asked most UCLA fans that from 2000 to 2020, if we had 5 Rose Bowl appearances, they'd be like, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And that's really only 2 or 3 a decade. But if you really look at most schools out there of the 130 or whatever there are now, most of those schools don't even have a national championship ever. They don't have conference like so. By the way, I'm not saying that UCLA should strive to get back to that. My point is I've always felt like UCLA should always go into November with an opportunity to win. And if everything goes right, which by the way, and I say this in the best way I can, when you're Alabama and you are sitting there at halftime and you're going, this Jalen Hurts is struggling a little bit. What do you say we go with Tua? Like most schools don't, and if that's one position, I just pick names that everybody knows. They can do that at every position because they have 5-star guys, probably 2 and 3 deep. And Georgia has that same issue. Ohio State has that same issue. Like Michigan, these schools, these top 5 or 6 schools in the nation, they have that problem. For everybody else, Washington this year, everything had to go well. They had their down games where they barely hung on to beat a bad Stanford team and where they barely hung on to beat an Arizona State team. That's a magical season because how often have we watched a Pac-12 school go into one of those games? Even UCLA back in the 80s had a chance to be number 1 and they lost to Washington State. Remember Oregon a few years ago went on the road and lost to Arizona State. Even UCLA, just as recently as not this year, but last year, lost to Arizona when they shouldn't have. Like those things can take you out of the race. So that's what I want. I think my dream for UCLA football is to go in November where everything goes right and everybody stays healthy and every ball bounces. Because that's what it comes down to. Like my Rose Bowl season, like we had, like obviously we were a good team, but we got breaks. We led the nation, I think, in turnover ratio. Like you have to do stuff like that. You have to have special stats to get to that wonderful place. So I think it can happen. So here I'm going to answer your question, and you guys already know how long-winded I am. I'm going to actually answer your question now. Yeah, I think UCLA needs everybody on board, and one of the things that I got to point out when I was up at the athletic department, and they're nice enough to let me sit in on some pretty cool things and be a part of some meetings and stuff like that. And I said, I think we're too disjointed at times. I think there's just too many compartments or too many areas, departments going in different directions. I think 100% of the people that need to believe that UCLA can be good. I'm not asking for undefeated. I think it's unreal. I mean, I'm not saying that can't ever happen because it can, but it's like I'm talking about having a really good football program that every year we're at worst 8 wins and we're at best 10 or 11 and having a chance at playing in a conference championship. I mean, that's what I think can happen. It's not going to happen every year, but you want to be sniffing. You always want to be sniffing. And then you keep bringing in recruits, keep reloading, and people see you have a winning program. But every single person, I'm talking about the new chancellor that's going to come in. I know a lot of people have been saying that. I actually agree with that. I think someone that actually appreciates what football can do for a school matters. Okay. And I'm not saying that Block didn't do that. I'm just saying that's when you're going to replace someone. I think that's important. But I think everybody at the school, from the people that deal with the media all the way through all the coaches and everybody else, needs to be locked in on the fact that, listen, we're at UCLA, we can be this. I think if everybody has that vision and they work toward it, I think there's no reason why we can't be that.
Yeah, man, it's something we could promise, hopefully, for the future. We have all the pieces. We've been talking for years how much UCLA is a sleeping giant, and now I think we got to shift it over to the bowl talk, my man. The LA Bowl, sponsored by Gronk. It's going to be a fun time here at SoFi Stadium. This new wonder of a complex that has been built here in our hometown of Los Angeles. It's going to be a good matchup, man. This interim coach that just got named the head coach, Spencer Danielson, has done a hell of a job there. Boise State 31st in scoring offense, but the last 3 contests with their defensive coordinator as the head coach, they've allowed 16.3 points per game, and they held UNLV to 20 points, where they were averaging the top 15 in the country coming into that game. Their quarterback is out. He's going to be transferring. It sounds like some SEC buzz for Taylon Green, but the tailback, Ginty, this guy has been a baller. He's almost got 1,300 yards on the ground, 14 touchdowns. Wayne, I think it's going to be a close game. Boise State, like you said, is a brand where they're a very respectable college football team and organization where when they come in, you got to give them your full focus or you could get blown out at the end of the day, especially with UCLA losing a lot of their talented players. Latu sitting out, the transfer portal. Talk to me about your predictions in this game because I think UCLA should be favored, but I think it's going to be a very close one down the line.
Yeah, I think it's 4. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's close though. So their quarterback, I believe, just said he's going to Arkansas. So he's going to go play at Arkansas. To me, what makes me happy is even though Latu is not playing, and by the way, I've never been an opt-out guy. I don't like it, but I get it now. I mean, we've turned these bowls into something different than what they used to be. So I can't just be the old guy that always gets mad at everything young people do. And Latu's earned the right, in my opinion, to get ready for the draft and to protect himself and go do that. So I'm okay with that. We still have the Murphys. I don't know about Tawia, and I haven't heard about these guys opting out. Okay, and I'm assuming I was shocked that Jay Tawia played in the last game because I thought he had hurt himself. But if we have those guys in the Murphys and Carl Jones and company, we're still going to have a pass rush. This was not a Latu only team. The Murphys wreaked havoc all year. I mean, how often did you look at the Pro Football Focus stats and see, Grayson on the list, right? Or so they're really good. Carl Jones is still really good. Last time I checked from my connections at practice, I haven't been out there. I've been working. But Madrano and Darius Muasau are playing. Oladejo's there. You know what I mean? So the defensive front 7, other than Latu, seems to me intact. So the question comes down to, and I don't know, this is kind of fun to talk about, but holy cow, the safety, tall, got benched for a little bit, came back and played Kirkwood.
Devin
Holy
Kirkwood.
cow. My brain, listen, you guys, I teach 8th grade all day. So my brain sometimes is gone, but yeah, he actually had some of his best games, I think, of his career. In the last couple of games of the season, he started playing really, really good football. So there's a corner. We still have Davies. We're losing John Humphrey, but we still have guys that can play. Alex Johnson is still out there, right? So we still have guys that can play. Anderson will probably have to play some at safety. I know we also lost, I think, Nimmo to the portal. But I think we have enough. I really, really do. And on the offensive side of the ball, I'm just going to base this on this. If Garbers plays, and I don't know, I heard he's practicing. If Garbers plays and is healthy, I think UCLA wins this game. I think we've got enough at tight end. I think Logan Loya had an awesome year this year because I still think Hudson Habermel, who, by the way, I heard is coming back too. That's great news. Matavao is really, really good. I'm bummed that we're losing Carson Ryan, but we have enough at tight end. And so I heard Carson is we don't know what's going on, but he's probably banged up. I mean, that's what I'm guessing. I haven't seen anything yet about portal or anything like that. I just, that doesn't fit my brain right now. So I think he's probably just banged up. That's what I'm guessing. Still got TJ. You know what I mean? I feel like there's enough pieces where when we watch this game, you're not going to be going, who's that? Who's that? Where's my roster? You're going to be no, these guys have all played. I don't feel like there's going to be a bunch of guys. I even heard Titus might be out practicing. So we haven't seen him all year. So who knows? And so I'm kind of excited. I hope UCLA is geared up for this. I think it matters. I think it affects recruiting. Like, think about it. If you win this game and look good, the portal, the high school, all of that stuff is affected by this because people are waffling. And if you go out and lay an egg and look like crap, people are going to be like, "Hell, well, I was going to make the decision one way or the other, but you know what? I don't want to go be a part of that." So you better show up and you better play.
Yeah, man. What a fun game we got on the horizon this Saturday. Guys, make sure you're loud and proud for the UCLA fans that are showing up. We'll all be in attendance. We all got to get together, grab a drink or something at the stadium while we're there. But, guys, thank you so much for joining. Wayne, you are the best for coming on.
Absolutely.
He's always for joining. And, Bruin Bible, we are out. 1090, the Mightier, ESPN Radio, we are out as well, talking about the post-game bowl game reaction after this. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.